The wind traveled low over the plains, stirring dust in long, lazy spirals as if the land itself were sighing under the weight of another long western evening. Ilara walked down the worn dirt road leading into Rosehill, her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders, though she knew it did little to hide the face that caused her endless trouble. She had learned that beauty was not a blessing here. It was a spark tossed into dry timber. It ignited jealousy, suspicion, and cruelty faster than fire caught dry grass. Every time she stepped into town, she felt the heat of those flames licking at her heels. Her footsteps slowed as she approached the boardwalk, where lanterns cast uneven gold over storefront windows. People were out, men heading home from the saloon, women closing their shops, children lingering too long before being called inside. It should have been ordinary. It should have felt safe. Instead, conversations dipped whenever she passed, and eyes followed her with looks she had come to fear more than rattlesnake warnings. Women whispered first, their tones sharp enough to draw blood. They always did. Some crossed their arms. Others narrowed their eyes as if Ilara's mere existence offended them. They had decided long ago that she must think herself superior, that she enjoyed the way men looked at her, that she invited attention simply by breathing. Ilara knew better. She kept her gaze low, her step soft, her presence small. It didn't matter. They saw only what they wanted to see. The group that often lingered outside the bakery turned their eyes to her the moment she neared. A cold wave of unease passed through her, but she forced herself to keep walking, pretending she didn't notice the way their bodies shifted subtly to block her path. She murmured a soft apology and stepped sideways, but one of the women leaned into her space, brushing her shoulder hard enough to make her stumble. Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Ilara knelt to steady herself, brushing the dirt from her hands. Heat stung behind her eyes, but she willed the tears away. Crying would give them exactly what they wanted. She rose slowly, dusting her dress, and continued down the road without looking back. But each step felt heavier. She could feel their laughter weighing on her spine. She moved past the general store and out toward the edge of town, where lantern light no longer reached and shadows stretched wider than the road. She knew she should turn around, take the path toward home. But she couldn't bear the idea of walking back past the same faces, the same voices, the same stares that made her feel like a wolf among sheep, unwanted and hunted. So she kept walking. The sun had slipped low, leaving streaks of dusty rose and ember red across the sky. Darkness gathered at the horizon like a tide waiting to swallow the land whole. Coyotes would call out soon, restless from hunger. Alone on this road, Ilara felt small against the vastness of the prairie, yet somehow safer here than among the people who despised her. Then came the distant sound of hooves, slow, rhythmic, steady. Not the rush of a rider in a hurry, nor the uneven clatter of a nervous horse. This was deliberate, unhurried movement. Someone was following. Ilara's heart stumbled. She kept her gaze ahead, pretending not to hear. But the hooves drew closer until she could feel the faint tremor through the ground. She stopped walking, unable to ignore it any longer. A horse came into view beside her, its rider silhouetted against the dimming sky. He pulled the reins gently, bringing the animal to a halt a few feet away. The fading light revealed a tall, broad-shouldered rancher atop the saddle. His hat pulled low, though she could still make out the rough line of his jaw and the quiet seriousness in his posture. She recognized him immediately. Rohan Hale, the man who lived on the outskirts near the river bend, with more cattle than neighbors and more silence than conversation. She had only ever seen him from afar, repairing fences, guiding a herd, occasionally riding in for supplies before disappearing again. Rumors swirled around him, crafted by people who disliked anyone they couldn't understand. They said he preferred being alone. They said he had a temper. They said he didn't trust a soul in town, yet Ilara never sensed harshness in him when she caught glimpses of him. If anything, he seemed burdened by something deeper than gossip could name. He studied her quietly, not with hunger or judgment like so many others, but with a slow, patient scrutiny that made her feel seen rather than inspected. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and steady, roughened by wind and work, but gentle in a way she never expected. He asked if she needed help. His question lingered in the falling dusk, warm and unsettling all at once. She didn't answer at first. She was used to strangers wanting something from her. She wasn't used to someone simply offering. She tried to brush it off, saying she was fine, saying she was heading home. But Rowan shifted slightly in the saddle, glancing toward the distant path that led nowhere near the cabin where she lived. He pointed out that she was walking the wrong way. It wasn't an accusation. It was quiet concern, as if he feared she might get lost or hurt. Embarrassment flushed her cheeks. She hadn't realized how far she had wandered from the familiar. But she couldn't admit the truth that she fled the town, because she couldn't endure another moment of being treated like an enemy. A danger, a stain on their lives. She muttered something about clearing her mind. Rowan nodded once, not asking for more. His silence felt strangely respectful. He warned her gently about walking alone at dusk, about coyotes and uneven ground and the kind of trouble that didn't come from people. She tried to shrug it off, but the faint tremor in her voice gave her away. Rowan's gaze dropped to the dusty smudges on her sleeves, the soft print left by fingers that had shoved her. His jaw tightened with a tension she had never seen in him before. He asked, who touched her? Ilara shook her head quickly, insisting that nothing happened. For a brief moment, Rowan looked back toward the town, then at her again. His expression was unreadable but intense, like a man storing a storm behind his eyes. When he offered her a ride, she hesitated. Riding behind a man like him, in full view of anyone who might pass, would ignite gossip that could burn for weeks. She was already drowning in whispers. She didn't want to fuel another fire. But the thought of walking alone into darkness twisted her stomach. Rowan didn't pressure her. He simply waited, one hand loose on the reins, the other steady beside him. His patience unsettled her more than anything. People rarely waited for her decision. They usually tried to take it away. At last she nodded. He guided the horse closer and extended his hand. She stared at it for a heartbeat, calloused, warm, strong enough to lift her yet gentle enough not to frighten her. When she finally placed her hand in his, he pulled her up with surprising ease, settling her on the saddle behind him. The steady warmth of his back reached her through the layers of fabric. She rested her hands lightly against his sides, careful not to grip too tightly. Rowan seemed to sense her nerves. He murmured a soft instruction for her to hold on as the horse began walking. The path stretched long and quiet beneath the darkening sky. For once, the silence felt like a blanket rather than a burden. The steady rhythm of the horse's movement lulled her, easing tension from her shoulders. Rowan didn't glance back or speak unnecessarily. He simply guided the horse toward her home, steady as a rooted oak. Halfway there. As the first stars pricked through the sky, Rowan spoke again. His voice was softer than before, carrying something almost protective. He said that the way people treated her wasn't her fault. That jealousy twisted people into something bitter. That none of what happened today had anything to do with who she truly was. Ilara felt tears threatening again. Not from hurt this time, but from the shock of hearing someone understand her without her having to explain a single thing. She wasn't used to kindness. It hit her with unexpected force. When her small cabin finally appeared in sight, lit faintly by the lantern near the porch, Ilara felt a strange heaviness settle in her chest. She didn't want the moment to end. The horse slowed until it stopped near her gate. Rowan dismounted first, then turned and offered his hands to help her down. She slid from the saddle carefully, landing softly on the ground as Rowan steadied her with the same care he'd shown all evening. Her heartbeat felt unsteady, not from fear but from something she hadn't felt in a long time, being valued, even briefly. She thanked him softly. Rowan didn't move away immediately. He watched her with an expression she couldn't decipher, something deep and quietly burning. He finally spoke, his words low enough that only she could hear them. If anyone laid a hand on her again, he said, he would do something the town wouldn't forget. In his voice, she heard more than anger. She heard a promise. A warning. a storm gathering behind calm eyes. She felt breathless. Shaken not by fear but by the realization that someone strong, solitary, unshaken by town cruelty had finally taken her side, and as she stepped toward her door, she sensed that everything in Rosehill was about to change.